What if starting a small business didn't require finding suppliers, importing equipment, or dealing with customs? What if you could just open Amazon, order a machine, and have it delivered straight to your door? And here's the best part. You can read real customer reviews and even watch customer videos to see how these machines perform in real life. And if you don't like it, you can return it. In this video, I'll show you 31 business machines you can buy on Amazon today, what they make, how much space they need, and how they can earn you money. Let's start. It feels like we found one of the more successful CNC machines straight from Amazon, the kind where you can pause the video and just read the reviews. The machine is built so the cutter moves along 3 axes, removing material along contours or engraved paths. Control is handled through familiar software. You prepare a design, load it into the program, and send it to the machine. The Carvera Air works with plastic sheets, acrylic, wood, composites, and similar materials. We found a powerful 1,500 watt yet compact plastic injection molding machine. It allows you to produce plastic parts in a finished form right out of the process, without assembly or additional post-processing. The plastic fills the mold in a single cycle and solidifies as one solid piece, resulting in dense and uniform parts. Once the setup is complete, the process becomes repeatable and producing small batches is no longer an issue. Plastic is loaded into the machine, heated to the required state, and injected into the mold under pressure. This is an automatic string art machine. It creates images from threads stretched between hundreds of small nails or pins. Essentially, the machine converts a digital image into a winding path, gradually forming a portrait through line density and direction. You can sell personalized or ready-made projects on Etsy or sell kits with instructions that the machine itself generates. This sublimation kit is put together as if it were made for someone who wants to start working right away. It includes a printer for producing designs, a heat press for transferring the image, and blanks that the design can be applied to immediately. The entire process is contained within a single set, from an image on the screen to a finished product in your hands. The kit doesn't limit ideas, but it provides a working foundation that makes it easy to test demand and understand whether it's worth moving forward and scaling. A wall is one of the most underused surfaces in any space. While it's usually just painted a single color or covered with posters, this machine simply prints an image directly onto it at full scale. According to reviews, this wall printer turned out to be much lighter than expected for its size. It can be moved by one person without assistance or special carts. Assembly and disassembly take only minutes and don't require tools or dealing with complicated instructions. Here's a real example straight from a user review. This is a vacuum forming machine, a device that turns flat plastic sheets into 3-dimensional shapes. Simply put, the plastic is heated until it becomes flexible, then vacuum pulls it over a mold, taking on its contour. The result is precise plastic parts with smooth surfaces and repeatable geometry. Metal in solid form is almost useless for small-scale production. That's why many such projects start with a melting furnace. This furnace allows metal to be melted directly in a workshop and poured straight into molds. This makes it possible to produce custom parts, small batches, and non-standard shapes by hand. Another important point is that mistakes here are inexpensive. If a casting fails, the metal simply goes back into the crucible. This is a rare advantage in physical manufacturing and one of the reasons melting furnaces often become the first entry point into working with metal. A UV printer is where printing stops being about paper and becomes about surfaces. It works particularly well for printing cases because of its large working area. Several cases can be placed on the platform at once, and printing runs in a single pass without stops or reconfiguration. At the same time, there's no need to limit yourself to cases alone. Anything that fits on the platform and requires direct printing can be integrated into the same workflow. In eyewear work, the critical stage is not the lens itself, but its edge. The edge determines whether the lens fits into the frame correctly and without stress. This machine is used to process the lens perimeter after cutting, removing excess material and forming the proper bevel for a specific frame. Edge processing makes it possible to take on eyeglass assembly, repair, and lens replacement jobs without relying on suppliers of pre-finished lenses. After a tree is cut down, the real problem begins. Trunks and branches have to be dealt with, and hauling them away means time, equipment, and extra cost. A wood chipper is used to solve this problem. The machine processes wood directly on site. Everything that would normally pile up and block further work is turned into chips within minutes. In business, this is a service tool. The client pays for speed, cleanliness, and the fact that no disposal problem is left behind. The faster the wood waste is handled, the higher the value of the overall service. Desktop 3D printers have long become common tools, and along with that, they've quickly hit a size limit. Large format printing solves this problem directly. The object is printed as a whole. This type of 3D printer is designed to produce large parts in a single run. That changes the entire workflow. Instead of assembling multiple pieces, you get a single solid form. It's also worth remembering the competition. Standard desktop 3D printers are now everywhere. Large format machines stand apart. There are far fewer of them, fewer people know how to work with them, and orders immediately move into a higher price range. In pastry work, there are a few processes that seem minor but consume the most resources over time. Chocolate decoration is one of them. It's not complicated, but it requires time and constant attention, especially when orders come one after another. With this approach, each dessert is assembled a bit faster, looks a bit cleaner, and requires less manual involvement. This toe auto melting furnace is built in a similar way to a metal furnace, but it works with wax. The wax is loaded once, brought to the required state, and then kept at working temperature without constant monitoring. There's no real need to separately explain that this setup can be used for candles or cosmetic formulations. It's enough to source raw materials and choose a few molds for the process to be ready. Stone by itself is worth almost nothing. As long as it's just a piece of mineral, it's raw material. Value appears later once it gains shape. This machine is about that transition. It allows you to take something like ordinary jade and bring it to a state where it can already be sold. The process is neither fast nor automatic, but that's exactly why the result feels alive rather than factory-made. In business, this type of equipment works through markup rather than volume. After grinding and polishing, the stone is perceived completely differently, even if the original material was inexpensive. If you imagine a machine that can serve as a universal working tool in a workshop, the X-Tool M1 Ultra is one such example. What makes it interesting is that several tools are combined into a single unit. It can work as a laser, handle precise cutting and engraving, and also draw and mark using a pen. This approach makes it well suited for tasks that require frequent switching between different types of processing. One day it might be wood engraving, the next cutting, packaging, or stickers, then marking or decorative elements. Another important point is that this machine has become widely adopted, which means there is already an ecosystem around it. A large amount of digital material has been accumulated for it, available for download from the official website. If you are genuinely interested in coffee, not just drinking it in the morning, but understanding why the same bean can taste different, roasting becomes a natural extension of that interest. When you roast coffee yourself, you stop being just a seller of beans and start shaping a product with character that can be refined and repeated. A single roaster allows you to work calmly and find balance and flavor, gradually building your own style. This machine solves one specific task, applying cement and plaster mixes quickly and evenly. At the same time, there's no point expecting miracles. The consistency of the mix still determines everything. Too thick and it will clog, too thin and layer control is lost. Surface preparation is still required, as is final leveling afterward. The machine speeds up the process, but it does not make it fully automatic. Printing on food hasn't looked new for a long time, but honestly, how often have you actually seen it in restaurants or cafes? A food printer allows images to be applied directly onto coffee or desserts, turning a familiar dish into a personalized object. It's like a cap with a printed photo, but on the surface of food. Guests quickly get used to good presentation, but personalization is still perceived as something special. Here's a business workflow where this machine plays a key role. Online, there are countless metal parts that need additional processing to become finished products. These parts pass through an automatic sandblasting machine where the surface is brought to a clean and uniform state. In effect, the machine acts as a filter between a raw part and a product. Everything that goes through it comes out at a higher level of quality and price. We've already seen many cases where people started with a simple Arduino and basic electronics knowledge. At that stage, everything runs on enthusiasm. Components are placed by hand, boards are soldered manually, and each one is checked individually. This works while volumes are small and projects are made for yourself or a few clients. A pick-and-place machine is the logical next step, removing the need to spend excessive time preparing boards. Combined with other improvements, this is what turns enthusiasm into a business. Party foam machines are used to create foam at events. They produce foam continuously and in large volumes, filling areas in front of stages, pools, or open venues. Operation is automatic, with the operator's role limited to turning it on and monitoring output. In practical use, this equipment is chosen for events where visual impact and audience engagement matter. Sugar decoration is often used as a visual accent rather than the main element of a dessert. This printer simplifies working with such elements by producing identical patterns without constant manual adjustment. The shape is set once, and the pattern is repeated until the ingredients run out. This type of decoration fits well into batch desserts, display cases, or repeat orders where a clean look and consistent style matter. This Amazon kit includes everything needed to get started with screen printing. Finding real use for it is not difficult, since this printing method is designed to work across different surfaces. It can be used on clothing as easily as on high-quality posters. The base included in the kit is built to cover the entire starting workflow. The mesh frames serve as the foundation for stencils, the exposure tools allow the design to be transferred, and the squeegees provide control over ink application. This tool heats plastic to a state where it can be joined directly, forming a dense and watertight seam. Visually, the joint looks clean, and in terms of strength, it holds up to load and environmental exposure better than most alternatives. This type of welding is mainly used in roofing work, but it is also applied to repairing plastic tanks and containers where the joint must retain its shape and prevent leaks. Before anything is painted, poured, or bonded, the surface usually looks worse than desired. A mobile shot blasting unit comes directly to the site and removes everything unnecessary in a single pass, while simultaneously preparing the surface for the next stage. After treatment, metal and concrete become clean and roughened, and you get paid for a completed service. If you want to enter automated woodworking, the Fox Alien Masuder Pro is a solid entry point. It costs around $600, fits on a small work surface, and allows you to automate basic operations that are usually done by hand. In reviews, it's often purchased specifically as a first machine. People mention that assembly takes just a couple of hours and that it's ready to work almost immediately without a long learning curve. Yes, it's not very powerful, but it's enough for learning and initial orders, especially since the machine can be easily upgraded as experience grows. When brewing beer stops being a one-time experiment and starts requiring attention to detail, it quickly becomes clear that the main resource is control. Control over temperature, timing, and sequence, without constant manual fuss. An electric brewing system structures the process so that brewing runs smoothly and predictably. This becomes especially noticeable after several batches, when you realize the result is no longer random. A large format printer is about the moment when an image stops being just a file and starts functioning in physical space. With this type of equipment, the way you think about work changes. You start thinking in terms of walls, shop windows, and presentation surfaces rather than pages. The layout is printed as a whole, which is why the result feels complete and is perceived as an object. This is an automatic cookie forming machine. It takes dough from a hopper and deposits it onto a conveyor in identical portions, already shaped. It keeps weight and size consistent, which directly affects baking, packaging, and the appearance of the finished product. One person can run the process without physical strain, and production no longer depends on who happens to be standing at the table that day. A pin plotter is a device that draws lines on flat surfaces with high precision, using pens, markers, or felt-tip pens instead of lasers or cutting tools. It works from a digital file that you upload into the device. It turns digital graphics into clean physical drawings that feel closer to hand-drawn work than standard printing. This is an automatic machine for producing disposable paper plates. It forms plates from paper blanks under pressure and immediately outputs finished items with defined shape and edges, ready for use without additional processing. Paper plates are not sold individually. They move in boxes and on a constant basis. What matters here isn't ideas or experimentation, but uninterrupted production and the ability to fulfill regular orders.